Welcome to our channel. If you're fascinated by tales of haunted places and spine-chilling legends, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a terrifying tale. The Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa, is a magnet for ghost hunters and horror aficionados, drawing countless visitors each year to its eerie confines. This notorious site was the scene of one of the most gruesome and mysterious murders in American history. On a quiet night in June 1912, the Moore family, Josiah and Sarah Moore, along with their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, were brutally slain. Also murdered were 2 young girls, Lena and Ina Stillinger, who had been staying overnight as guests. An unknown assailant crept into the house and crushed their skulls with an axe, leaving behind a blood-soaked tableau that would haunt the small town forever. Despite numerous suspects and a sensational trial, the case remains unsolved to this day. The Villisca Axe Murder House has since become a macabre tourist destination, meticulously restored to its 1912 condition. Those brave enough to stay overnight pay $428 for the privilege of encountering its restless spirits. Visitors frequently report paranormal phenomena, the vision of a shadowy figure wielding an axe, disembodied footsteps echoing in the halls, and the faint, heart-wrenching screams of children. The house's grim allure took an even darker turn in November 2014. Robert Stephen Lorson Jr., a 37-year-old from Rhinelander, Wisconsin, embarked on a recreational paranormal investigation with friends, seeking to experience the supernatural for himself. What started as an ordinary ghost hunt quickly spiraled into true horror. According to Vice, Lorson's companions discovered him at 12:45 a.m., the exact time the 1912 murders had begun, suffering from a severe, self-inflicted stab wound to his chest. Panicked, his friends called 911, and Lorson was rushed to a nearby hospital before being airlifted to Creighton University Medical Center in Omaha. Miraculously, he survived the ordeal but has never publicly spoken about what transpired that night. The incident left Martha Lynn, the current owner of the house, deeply shaken. It's publicity, but it's not exactly the kind of publicity you desire to have, Lynn remarked. I don't want people thinking that when they come to the Villisca Axe Murder House, something's going to happen that's going to make them do something like that. To this day, the Villisca Axe Murder House remains open to the public, offering daytime tours and overnight stays. The house itself, a modest white frame structure, looks unassuming from the outside. But step inside and the atmosphere changes dramatically. The air feels heavy with sorrow and fear, and the original furnishings only add to the sense of stepping back in time to that fateful night. The bedroom where the Stillinger sisters met their tragic end is particularly unsettling. Visitors often feel an inexplicable chill and a sense of being watched. The attic, where the killer is believed to have hidden before launching his attack, exudes a palpable sense of malevolence. Some say they've seen a dark figure lurking in the shadows, while others report the sensation of unseen hands brushing against their skin. In the living room where the Moores' bodies were discovered, EVP, electronic voice phenomena, recordings frequently capture faint voices, pleading and weeping. Paranormal investigators have also recorded unexplained fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, sudden drops in temperature, and objects moving on their own. Despite the terror it invokes, the Villisca Axe Murder House continues to attract those drawn to its dark history. Some come seeking answers, hoping to connect with the spirits and uncover the truth behind the century-old mystery. Others are thrill seekers, looking to experience the fear and adrenaline that comes with spending a night in a truly haunted house. For those who dare to visit, the Villisca Axe Murder House offers a stark reminder of the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. It stands as a monument to an unsolved crime and the restless souls left in its wake, ensuring that the horror of that June night in 1912 is never forgotten. It was a quiet spring evening in April 1973 when Henry McDaniel, a resident of Enfield, Illinois, encountered something that would forever change his life and send shockwaves through his small community. Enfield was a typical Midwestern town, characterized by its close-knit community and serene landscapes. However, on that fateful night, an eerie presence shattered the town's tranquility. Henry, a no-nonsense man in his 50s, was relaxing in his living room after a long day of work. The sun had set, and the town was blanketed in a calm darkness. The only sounds were the occasional chirping of crickets and the distant hum of cars passing on the main road. As he was reading the evening paper, a strange scratching noise broke the silence. At first, he thought it might be a raccoon or a stray cat, but the sound was persistent and growing louder. Curious and slightly annoyed, Henry grabbed his flashlight and headed towards the front yard to investigate. As he stepped outside, he felt a chill run down his spine. There, standing in the dim light of his porch, was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It had 3 legs supporting a short, stout body and 2 small arms protruding from its torso. What struck Henry the most were its eyes, glowing pink orbs as big as flashlights that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Frozen in place, Henry could only watch as the creature stared back at him. It made no sound, but its presence was enough to send a wave of fear through him. Gathering his courage, Henry took a step forward, and the creature suddenly bolted towards the nearby woods, disappearing into the night. Shaken, Henry immediately called the local police. When they arrived, they found scratches on the door screen and peculiar footprints in the yard. The prints resembled those of a dog, but with an unusual twist. They had 6 toes. The officers were baffled, unable to explain what had left such marks. Henry's encounter made headlines in the Montmagny Vernon Register-News. He described the creature in vivid detail, his words painting a picture of an otherworldly being. It had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink eyes as big as flashlights. His account was met with a mix of skepticism and fear. Some residents dismissed it as a hoax, while others couldn't shake the feeling that something unearthly had visited their town. As days turned into weeks, more reports of strange sightings began to emerge. Several residents claimed to have seen similar creatures lurking in the shadows or heard unexplainable noises at night. The police increased their patrols, but no tangible evidence was ever found. Despite extensive searches, the mysterious creature, or creatures, remained elusive. The small town of Enfield was no stranger to odd occurrences, but this was unlike anything they had ever experienced. Neighbors gathered in small groups exchanging stories and theories about the mysterious creature. Mrs. Thompson, who lived 2 houses down from Henry, swore she had seen something moving near her guard at night. Old Mr. Jenkins, the town's unofficial historian, claimed it was a harbinger of doom, sent to warn them of impending disaster. Henry, steadfast in his belief, often told reporters, "If they do find it, they will find more than one, and they won't be from this planet. I can tell you that." His convictions sparked numerous theories and debates among cryptozoologists and paranormal enthusiasts. Some believed the creature was a cryptid, a previously undiscovered species living in the remote parts of Illinois. Others speculated it was an extraterrestrial being that had somehow found its way to Earth. Dr. Robert Franklin, a renowned cryptozoologist, visited Enfield to investigate the sightings. He interviewed Henry and other witnesses, meticulously documenting their accounts. Dr. Franklin spent several nights in the woods, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive creature, but his efforts were in vain. Despite his lack of success, he became convinced that something extraordinary was at play in Enfield. The media frenzy attracted a variety of characters to the town. Paranormal investigators with their high-tech equipment, journalists looking for a sensational story, and curious onlookers hoping to witness the bizarre phenomenon firsthand. The once quiet town was now a hub of activity, with motels fully booked and local diners buzzing with conversations about the Enfield monster. As summer approached, the sightings gradually decreased. The town began to return to its normal routine, but the memory of the mysterious encounters lingered. Henry, though no longer in the spotlight, remained vigilant. He installed extra locks on his doors and kept a loaded shotgun by his bedside, just in case. Years passed, and the story of the Enfield monster became a local legend, passed down through generations. Children grew up hearing tales of the strange creature that once roamed their town, adding their own embellishments and twists. Some claimed it had magical powers, while others believed it was a government experiment gone wrong. Despite the passage of time, the mystery remained unsolved. No concrete evidence was ever found to explain what Henry had seen that night. Theories continued to abound, but the truth remained as elusive as the creature itself. Enfield retained its quiet charm, but the memory of that eerie spring evening lingers, a reminder that sometimes the unknown is closer than we think. In the years that followed, Henry McDaniel became somewhat of a local celebrity. People would visit Enfield hoping to hear the story from the man himself. Henry would often sit on his porch, recounting his encounter to wide-eyed listeners, always ending with the same chilling words. If they do find it, they will find more than one, and they won't be from this planet. I can tell you that. The Enfield monster became a part of the town's identity, a mysterious chapter in its history that no one could quite explain. Whether a cryptid, an alien, or a figment of collective imagination, the creature left an indelible mark on Enfield, forever blurring the line between reality and the unknown. Certainly, when you think of haunted dolls, it's likely the creepy old Victorian-looking porcelain kind that springs to mind, those with cracked faces and lifeless glass eyes. However, don't get too comfortable around any children's toys too soon. A Disney's Frozen Elsa doll, given as a Christmas gift in 2013 to a family in the Houston area, made headlines when it seemingly became haunted, defying all logic and explanation. The doll, which was initially a beloved toy, recited phrases from the movie Frozen and sang "Let It Go" when a button on its necklace was pressed. For the first 2 years, it operated normally, delighting the children with its cheerful music and familiar phrases. But in 2015, something strange began to happen. According to KPRC2 Houston News, the doll started alternating between English and Spanish without any intervention. There wasn't a button that changed these. It was just random, said Emily Madonia, the mother of the family. This was the first sign that something was amiss. Over the next few years, the doll's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Despite the family never changing its batteries, the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing, even with its switch turned off. It seemed to have a mind of its own, coming to life at the most unexpected moments. The final straw came in December 2019 when the family decided to throw out the creepy doll. They double-bagged it and left it in the garbage outside, thinking they had seen the last of it. Weeks later, they found the doll inside a bench in their living room. The kids insisted they didn't put it there, and I believed them because they wouldn't have dug through the garbage outside, Madonia told KPRC2 Houston News. The discovery sent chills through the family, who couldn't fathom how the doll had made its way back into their home. More unsettling was the fact that Elsa had ceased to sing the English rendition of "Let It Go" altogether, now speaking only in Spanish when pressed. Desperate to rid themselves of the haunted toy, the family double-bagged it again, placed it at the bottom of their garbage can, and took it out on garbage day. They went on a trip shortly after, hoping to put the eerie incident behind them. But upon their return, they found Elsa waiting in their backyard, as if the doll had a sinister determination to stay with them. In a final bid to be free of the doll, the family mailed it to a friend in Minnesota. The friend, equally spooked by the story, decided to take no chances. He taped the haunted doll to the front bumper of his truck, ensuring it couldn't find its way back to Houston. According to Madonia's latest February Facebook update, the doll hasn't returned, and they hope it stays that way. Despite the doll's apparent departure, the experience left an indelible mark on the family. The children, once enchanted by Elsa's cheerful songs, were now wary of their toys. Even now, Emily Madonia remains cautious, checking updates from her friend in Minnesota to ensure the doll remains far away. The story of the haunted Elsa doll serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes even the most innocent-seeming objects can harbor dark and inexplicable forces. So if you ever find yourself humming "Let It Go," be mindful of where your toys are. They might just have a life of their own, waiting to surprise you when you least expect it. In August 2016, North London became the stage for a harrowing and tragic event that would capture the nation's attention and spark a heated debate about faith, mental health, day, and the limits of familial love. It all began with 26-year-old Kennedy Ife, a young man known for his calm demeanor and close-knit family ties, who suddenly started exhibiting increasingly bizarre and aggressive behavior following a severe throat pain. Kennedy's descent into madness was both sudden and terrifying. His once gentle nature was replaced by violent outbursts. He bit his father, Kenneth Ife, in a fit of rage, threatened to mutilate himself, and spoke of a snake or python inside him. His family, deeply religious and convinced that he was possessed by a demonic force, decided to take matters into their own hands. As reported by the BBC, the Ife family restrained Kennedy to a bed using cable ties and excessive force, hoping to cure him through restraint and fervent prayer. For the next 3 days, the Ife family engaged in a relentless battle against what they believed to be a demonic entity. His brother, Colin Ife, recounted to police, "It's clear that thing was in him. What we believed was a demon because it was not natural. It was clearly trying to kill him. We had to restrain him for himself. It was clear if we didn't restrain him, he could have tried to harm people in our family." The atmosphere in the house was charged with fear and desperation. The family's home, once a place of warmth and safety, became a fortress against an unseen enemy. The sound of prayers filled the air as family members took turns watching over Kennedy, their hope and faith battling against the rising tide of dread. Despite their efforts, Kennedy's condition worsened. He was left bound to his bed, deprived of medical attention, and his health deteriorated rapidly. On the third day, realizing the severity of his brother's condition, Colin called emergency services, reporting that Kennedy was dehydrated and struggling to breathe. Paramedics arrived to a scene of chaos and confusion. Tragically, Kennedy was pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m. that morning. As the Independent reported, the scene that greeted the police was nothing short of horrifying. Colin Ife allegedly performed an attempted resurrection, chanting and praying over his brother's lifeless body. The gruesome details that emerged painted a chilling picture. A post-mortem examination revealed over 60 wounds on Kennedy's body, including what appeared to be a bite mark. His father, Kenneth Ife, along with 4 of his brothers, also sustained injuries during the ordeal. The case quickly became a media sensation. The Ife family, previously unknown outside their community, were thrust into the spotlight. They faced accusations of manslaughter, false imprisonment, and causing or allowing the death of a vulnerable adult. The trial that followed was filled with emotional testimonies and intense scrutiny. Kenneth Ife defended his actions, telling jurors he ordered his sons to take shifts and use overwhelming force, but denied any links to cults, occults, or secret societies influencing their actions. The courtroom was a battleground of ideologies. Prosecutors painted a picture of a family gripped by religious fervor, whose misguided beliefs led to Kennedy's death. The defense, however, portrayed a family in crisis, doing their best to save a loved one from an inexplicable and terrifying condition. After 4 days of intense deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. On March 14, 2019, all 7 family members were cleared of charges. The story of Kennedy Ife is a haunting reminder of the fine line between faith and fanaticism, between care and cruelty. It underscores the dangers of misinterpreting severe mental health crises and the devastating consequences that can follow. The Ife family believed they were fighting a demon, but in their desperate attempt to save Kennedy, they became ensnared in a tragedy that left lasting scars on all involved. In the aftermath, the debate continued. Mental health experts emphasized the importance of recognizing and treating psychological issues with medical intervention rather than resorting to extreme measures. Religious communities grappled with the implications of the case, questioning how to balance faith with modern understanding of mental health. For the Ife family, life would never be the same. They returned to their home, now a place haunted by memories of those 3 fateful days. They faced the difficult task of rebuilding their lives, living with the knowledge that their actions, driven by love and fear, had led to such a tragic end. As we delve into stories like these, it's essential to approach them with a sense of compassion and a critical eye. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, the human element of fear, desperation, and love cannot be ignored. In Colombia, the Hotel del Salto stands as a testament to both architectural beauty and tragic mystery. Nestled above the majestic Tequendama Falls, this hotel has more ghostly legends than it does actual tenants. Designed by the renowned architect Carlos Arturo Tapias in 1923, the hotel was once a symbol of opulence and luxury, attracting wealthy visitors from around the world who were eager to take in the breathtaking views. From its grand opening, the Hotel del Salto offered guests an unparalleled experience. They dined in lavish halls, danced in elegant ballrooms, and gazed out from their balconies at the spectacular Tequendama Falls, a sight so mesmerizing it seemed almost otherworldly. However, this enchanting view concealed a darker allure. As time passed, guests began to report strange occurrences, disembodied voices, shadowy figures, and an overwhelming feeling of dread. The hotel's name, Hotel del Salto, translates to Hotel of the Leap, and it soon became clear why. The falls, while beautiful, held a sinister reputation. Guests and staff alike started to notice an alarming trend. People were disappearing, only to be found later at the base of the falls. Some speculated that the spirits of the indigenous Muisca tribe, who had leaped to their deaths centuries earlier to escape Spanish colonizers, were calling to the living, drawing them to the same fate. Among the most chilling tales is that of Isabella, a young woman who checked into the hotel in the early 1930s. Isabella was a renowned opera singer who sought solace at the hotel after a series of personal tragedies. She was often seen wandering the grounds, her haunting melodies echoing through the halls at night. One evening, her singing abruptly stopped. Her body was found at the base of the falls the next morning. To this day, visitors claim to hear her mournful aria drifting through the air, a ghostly reminder of her untimely end. The hotel continued to operate despite its growing reputation as a haunted hotspot. Guests were drawn not just by the promise of luxury, but by the morbid curiosity of its haunted history. However, the tales of restless spirits and tragic deaths eventually overshadowed its glamorous allure. By the late 20th century, the Hotel del Salto had closed its doors, left to decay and be reclaimed by nature. In 2011, the hotel was transformed into a museum, a place where history and horror intertwine. Visitors can now walk through its dilapidated rooms where the echoes of the past still linger. The grand ballroom, once filled with laughter and music, now stands silent, save for the occasional whisper of a long-forgotten tune. The balconies, which once offered a view of paradise, now seem like portals to another realm, where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. Legends persist that the spirits of those who leapt to their deaths are still trapped within the hotel's walls, reliving their final moments. Some say that on moonlit nights, you can see figures standing on the edge of the cliffs, staring into the abyss before vanishing into the mist. Others report feeling an unseen presence following them, a cold breath on their neck, or a spectral hand reaching out in the darkness. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the Hotel del Salto remains a place of intrigue and mystery. Its haunting beauty and tragic history continue to captivate and terrify those who visit. So if you ever find yourself near the Tequendama Falls, take a detour to the Hotel del Salto. Just be careful not to get too close to the edge. You might find yourself drawn to take the leap into the unknown. The scariest ghost stories from Reddit. Leave the lights on when you read these bone-chilling stories of average people encountering the paranormal. I was camping with my wife and her family at a small remote lake in Colorado. There were about 10 people in our group and another group of 6 people in the next campsite. It was nighttime and both groups were doing typical activities, making s'mores, having a few drinks, and telling stories, when we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling out for help. Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were hearing a little girl and decided to search the area we heard the noises from together. There was a field behind our campsites, and we all saw a very tall, pure white figure standing maybe 100 feet away from us in the field, making the noises. We all agreed this thing looked maybe 6 feet tall, skinny, and white as can be. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever it was that we saw started backing off as we got closer, and it disappeared into the trees. All night, we continued to hear a little girl calling for help as we tried to sleep. I'm a psychiatric nurse, and early in my career, I worked at a residential mental health facility. One of our residents was an elective mute, which means that he couldn't talk, but there were no medical reasons as to why. He had spoken earlier in his life, and in fact seemed quite normal back then, with the exception of being close to 7 feet tall. He'd been raised in the Pacific Northwest and joined the military when he was 19, But one night he vanished. He was declared AWOL, and eventually he was declared missing and dead. 10 years later, a 7-foot tall man walked into a VA hospital emergency room in my part of the Northeast and said to the receptionist, "My name is Vincent Blackwood, not the real name, and I've been dead for 10 years." Those were the last words he ever spoke. He was covered with dust, and he was wearing the same clothes he'd been reported to be wearing the night he vanished. His social security number had not been used, and he had no identification on his person. However, they were able to identify him, I guess, fingerprints. The family was notified, but they said they had already grieved their lost man, and that whomever was claiming to be him simply could not be. They demanded not to be contacted again. Vincent paced all day, every day, moving his mouth that looked like talking or muttering, but no sound came out. He had an unnerving habit of throwing his head back with his mouth wide open as if he were laughing heartily, but not even a breath could be heard. If I talked to him, he appeared to listen, periodically throwing his head back in that laughter-mimicking way of his. Various medications were tried, but they did not affect him either positively or negatively. Occupational therapy did nothing because Vincent would just grin, and unless told to stay put, he'd get up and start pacing again. On my last day at that job, the last thing I saw was Vincent, pacing in the parking lot, throwing his head back to laugh. Later, I wondered if all along I'd been dealing with a ghost. All these years later, I still don't know. I was driving across the country with my dad and brother when I was 16 and my brother was 20. It was late, but we were well rested and still alert. We were driving along an interstate and needed gas and a bathroom break, so we stopped at the only rest stop in 200 miles. There was a van full of teenagers on a road trip at the gas station, as well as a small gray car parked at the pump in front of us, with 2 young men standing still outside of it. When we got there, everything felt wrong. We'd been on the road for days and seen many rest stops at night, and had never been afraid until then. My dad and brother went inside, and I stayed in the car. I heard the teenagers say they were creeped out and couldn't get the pump to work, and they left in a hurry. I was watching the car in front of us, and the 2 men had not moved at all. Not an inch. They weren't talking. They weren't on phones. They were just standing there, still as stone. My brother and dad came running back out to the car, and when they got in, the 2 men slowly turned to look at us while not moving or pivoting the rest of their bodies, and I swear to fucking shit, we all saw the same thing. They had eyes dark as pitch and empty. Truly empty. Not black. Not reflecting any light at all. Just a void. We sped out of there and didn't stop until we were in the next city. The worst thing about the entire experience, we couldn't find the place on any map. We knew exactly which spot on the interstate to look, and we couldn't find it on Google Maps or any paper map we had. We even asked locals about the creepy gas station out on that stretch of road and got only confused looks. We've traveled on that interstate since, and there is no rest stop. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing tales from the unknown.